Good morning. All right. So yesterday morning, thought was, Bitcoin was moving down a bit, and there's a few other things going on. I thought, was this market up here a just sucking in some buyers or whatever? And things didn't really go very far. They started off, went down a bit, up a bit, and there was just a pretty much a battle all day long, and buyers were still stepped up pretty relentlessly. But no one really won the battle yesterday. S&P was just an inside day. So now we got Bitcoin down further. And I'm talking about this, if you're not aware, there's been this correlation between Bitcoin and the broader markets, and it detached a little bit, meaning yesterday was it continued to head down. And now today it's down. Well, it was down about 1,000 points, but being down 1,000 points may or may not be relevant to the pattern. So what we have here is a retest pattern, and like a lot of stocks, different sectors, tech had a nice move above the prior pivot high, which left a decent amount of room to pull back without damaging what had occurred, the chart, meaning even though things have pulled back here a bit, it's down 1,000 points, it's right perfectly at where it should form a buy setup based on this prior pattern and this move up. So question is, even if this closes red, which would be fine, is tomorrow a reversal day, which tomorrow, of course, now we got this big news events, earnings and the Fed announcement. And so will tomorrow be possibly a bottoming tail bar? Will it be a green day reversal forming a buy setup? Or do we go down to the bottom of the trading range, which is going to be telling as far as the broader markets? If this is going down, odds are the market's going down. And this whole, nice or relatively bullish move within this downward trend, starts falling apart again. So again, we're in the middle of nowhere here. But from the bullish side, things need to begin to take hold here, stabilize, and of course get turned around by tomorrow. So we'll see how that shapes up. And looking at the broader markets, looking at the futures, and just marking time. Right? Yesterday was just watching the grass grow, kind of, and you see this, which could be a topping pattern. But of course, it's got to break down. You got opposing pivot highs, you got opposing pivot lows, which means buyers are battling here and sellers are battling here. It did make this new high. You can kind of see, like a head and shoulders kind of a top, but ultimately it's got to break down and close below these levels, and that would open up the door to the void below. So we wait to see if anything's going to happen, and so, looking at what's happening pre-market, it's just been the same thing on a smaller time frame, pivot highs, pivot lows. That being said, on this time frame anyway, it's making some lower pivot highs opposing each other and lows and whipping around here. And it's basically, getting smacked one way and then the other way, back and forth, back and forth. And so we don't like that. So the message is, when you see opposing pivot highs and, against opposing pivot lows, just stay the hell away from it, especially on a small time frame like this. It's one thing if it falls all the way down, to the bottom of the trading range like this. But now it's just going back and forth, back and forth. Let's just stay the hell out of the way, because, this is, let the computers trade with each other and do what they do. Right? That's right, DC. It could be just an SOH day. Now, I'm talking about the broader markets. That doesn't mean there won't be some opportunities in stocks like, Walmart getting created here today. Maybe if the premiums are real juiced up, Dan might talk about that, where you can do a put spread, or even from a day trading point of view, if it bottoms out, for 20 minutes or so, and it could be a long since it's down on support. But, we'll see. higher time frame, still trending down. And it's kind of an interesting pattern in that you've got this little breakout last week. Now, today's only Tuesday. We're stuck here at the big whole number. And if this goes nowhere, I guess it could go higher. But look, this is it's a big news week. I'm just talking as I see this pattern here. When I see a pattern like this, and let's just assume it's a 15-minute chart for the conversation, because this is going to take time to work out. We've still got 4 days. When I see a pattern like this, then after that bar completes itself, this thing better be going up. Now, I know it's in a downtrend, but since it broke out and it consolidated for 4 or 5 weeks, right? If this was a 15-minute chart, after 15 minutes or so, a half hour, this thing better be popping to the upside. So, we'll see where this ends, on Friday, but just pointing that out as if you're an intraday trader or a swing trader on a daily chart, when you see something like this, it had this resting period for quite a long time, within this time frame. It needs to get a little bit higher to where sellers will feel comfortable stepping up. And if it doesn't, if you get an inside bar and it breaks below it, historically, it's best to just get the hell out of the way, if you're long anyway. So, all right. So running in place, going nowhere here. Spiders going to be the same. Just flip-flopping back and forth. We want to see where they're at relative on the daily chart so we can look at SPX, right? And, starting here at the bottom of the range, which we saw on the futures. And spending a little time, if it breaks under 392, it opens up the door into the void below. And so how far could that go? Well, moving averages being subjective, they do have an effect on a daily chart. So breaking below there, the 50 MA really should not be much of a level of protection. And we'll see if it bounces off of it. So we'll see. And then there's just nothing there. So I've got this green area here as a place where, if this began pulling back, and let me back up here, began pulling back immediately. Right? Yesterday was an inside day. So the more time this spends going sideways here, it needs to resolve itself on the upside. As you saw on the futures, and you see here, as it's going sideways on the daily, this is the daily, and this is going sideways here because of the move up that took out this resistance. And this is like a power move, red bar ignored and all that. This accumulation will turn into supply and drive it lower. So the more time it spends going sideways here, the greater the need for it to resolve itself on the upside, or something much larger will happen on the downside. So let's call it the next level. If this actually starts moving lower today, since it's opening here, if it breaks this level, where's the 20 MA, which is down here, and there's an unfilled gap. So the problem is there's just nothing. There's nothing to stop it from going down. Now we can look at what we call minor support, those highs that were resistance. And again, the longer this goes sideways here, the more this isn't likely to hold. And then we look at this unfilled gap area way down here. And so the 20 MA still, while subjective, could be where it begins to hold. So let's just say somewhere between here and that high could be where it could spend part of the day. Okay, so with that in mind, we look at SPX. Here we're on the same page, Jacob. And so I've got 4,010, 4,005, 4,010, a little further away. It's down here. It would, and that is not a no-brainer, let me tell you. Like we've seen in the past where There's many more call buyers around, and you know, the premium would be up here, right? So it's not like it's so far away that it's a no-brainer, but at least it's down here. And so on the downside, I got 38.80. You have 85, right? So I got 80 to 85. And so looking down here where the 20 MA is so even if it continues to go down, right? You've got somewhat of a line of protection, and you got the 20 MA, you've got the void. So it's not like we've got pivots, pivot lows or congestion in the way. So not the greatest setup here for credit spreads, but maybe the market just runs in place. That's the unknown. Anyway, if it breaks below these lows, 39.30-ish, that pivot, let's just say it's 39.30-ish, give or take, and it starts heading lower, immediately look down here, because as the premium pops, and just get further away. And that's why the reason why we have such a high batting average with these things is because we're not looking for the home run. We just, remember the moving trading day? We're just looking to go home, at the end of the day, without any, broken legs, so to speak, financially. So if it starts to break down, we'll just see if the premiums pop and get further away where there's a more significant support point. But look, ahead of earnings reports and the Fed, I don't see why it should go down there. So that's the kind of the thinking behind why, looking down here should be okay. All right. Any other markets to guide us? NASDAQ's down a bit, but coming down toward, minor support down here. There should be buyers. Now, do they want to continue to step up, ahead of the news? Well, we'll see. But I don't think the downside is not with the news there. It's not the same kind of day where, look, on a day where there was no news and we see this pattern and it breaks here, we're just thinking it's going to keep going down, into the void. So maybe just hesitancy to sell, and it just chops around here in this area here today, or if it blips down a little bit, it blips right back up. So obviously you got to keep an eye on the Qs, whether the futures are QQQ. That's what you're looking at. And just, similarly, the same thing. Look to the left and see, this area. So now, right, that was a resistance area that we were looking at a week ago. We can just green it, and you can see where that is down there. You got a converging 50 and 20 MA in here. And so as long as this hangs up here, I'm repeating, but news, caveat, and holds, we should see the 20 MA start, maybe for the first time, start inching its way up above the 50. And that'll just be a sign of what we see on the price charts of stabilization and going sideways and some improvement. So the depth of retracement here into this area, the depth of movement above this resistance, similarly to what I was explaining on Bitcoin, historically, this pullback even further here is okay relative to this move up, and it should form a buy setup. Now, it's still, the trend at this point going sideways, but this resistance here, you'd say, okay, it should make a higher high. Maybe, we'll see. That would be great. But, looking for this market to bottom. But I can tell you that historically, this pattern also has a pretty good probability of turning into an M top. So that the deeper this pulls back, the greater the odds of making a decent move. The shallower the pullback, the closer the proximity to this high, historically, the greater the probability of this being an M top, and it's in a downtrend. So In other words, we're not out of the woods here with this bottoming pattern. And as far as bear markets and, we got a short-term low, but this ain't out of the woods just yet. All right. Let me read, Dan. Is that Bitcoin trade couple of questions? Does the 24G mean on the put? And do you know, Rob, I'm not understanding what you're saying there, but you can throw it at Dan when he comes on. Okay. So Dow just going sideways. You got a bunch of days there, breaking below these lows. I mean, I'm gonna be looking down here, to buy a bounce, because as you can see, there's just nothing there. But if it just stays here and another day, of yawning, so to speak, of going nowhere, we'll see. We'll see. Sideways there so far. It's just as if the market isn't even open the way it's going sideways. The dollar is invertedly correlated with metals, with gold, with silver, to some extent oil. It's chopping sideways here, Support point. You see options chain, can't find what the G means. I've never traded Bitcoin options either, Rob, and I have no desire to. But, there's a place for everybody. Dive in here a little bit. Yeah. Well, that could be. You could have certain instruments need authorization from the broker because of risk. So this is acting well. Mentioned, this yesterday, and XLE and the oil stocks certainly outperformed, as well as regional banks yesterday did well. So financials held up yesterday. You can see the regional banks, the red bar ignored. They're up a whole bunch. And financials, that's just kind of sitting there, but everything pretty much on hold. And silver, holding here for now. Gold doing nothing. Transports just kind of sitting there. So the dollar is in an area the same way we looked at the Qs, the depth of move up of Bitcoin, right, coming down as they were going up. Now this is in an area where it should form a buy setup. So far bottoming tail yesterday, but going nowhere. And as this is on a tear like that, and you look at GLD, it's kind of you can see the inverse relationship with it. It's not exact, but it's certainly a good guide. If the dollar is ripping higher and interest rates are going up, this isn't likely to do very well. So there you have it. SPY headed to 333. I don't know. I mean, look, if you just look at the charts, 333 is really not a big deal. More the question is it heading down to, continuing to go down? So see if it breaks this level here. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Very active earnings week here, obviously. So far, our plan is playing out, getting this little pullback. So the big elephant in the room today, Walmart profit warning, gapping all the way down to this 120 major resistance. So I'll be stalking this, waiting for some kind of bullish pattern. And then I'll tell you if I'm going to do anything with it. I was looking at the puts though, that yesterday, the 119s closed at 3 cents, 2 cents by 3 cents. So whoever long those puts has that absolute lottery ticket on their hand, unless it's inside information. That would be a good test to see if anybody loaded up on these into the close. and then have the SEC have a little conversation with them. So that's hurting a bunch of retailers. Amazon has earnings this week. Shop, look, that's a big percent. That's, man, Greg, these bottoming patterns. Look at that. Shop's getting whacked. We have a call spread on Home Depot that it's helping. I tighten the stop 30-minute high. It's hurting. We have a put spread on W whiskey, and I guess a ton of retailers are getting whacked. You know, Lowe's, Target obviously is the biggest competitor. Home Depot to Walmart. I said, but the other retailers, I saw AEO getting whacked here. $11. That's a nasty downtrend. Yeah. Walmart. Yeah, Walmart's dragging down the whole thing. Yeah. All right, a ton of earnings in here. Let's go through my favorites first. All right, I personally sold puts on UPS yesterday, the 165s. So even though it's down $5, I'm gonna have an open profit because of all contraction. And I also sold FFIV, the 135s, way below everything here, and that's gapping up nicely. So that's gonna, I just put a GTC 2 cents to close both these trades actually. So ADM is on my tier 1 list here. Sell a put spread. Nice gap from a bottoming pattern on earnings. I have 2 bearish ones. RTX gapping down. Now say that this is a power bar though. That's why I said 30-minute low on this one, because I just need a little more time to make sure buyers don't step up here and rip it and fill the gap, because that's a powerful engulfing. But compare that to KMB, already had a topping pattern. Look at all the MAs, and now it's gapping under this little cell setup. So this one I gave 5-minute low. And, you know, I'm also trying to anticipate some questions. I get emails, why is this one 5-minute low and this one 30? I don't understand. And that's what I'm explaining right now. How aggressive do you want to get in based on, you know, you need more information to see what it's going to do in the opening session. Rob, the Bitcoin trade. Yeah, no, Rob, you need a special account to trade options on Bitcoin. TAS does not let you do it. I tried many times myself. I wish they would, but when I did my research, Rob, you have to open, there's 3 companies I found, or actually a subscriber found them for us, but they're all overseas. And I just personally don't want to mess with an overseas account. Actually, talking about that, I read in the journal yesterday, remember Celsius broker, Bitcoin broker? There was an article about, you know, 2 hardworking yuppies. They're like, I lost 100 grand, and them having to tell their wives lost 100 grand. So I don't trust Bitcoin, period, myself. I'm a swing trader, so I'll trade the stocks and ETFs, but I have 0 interest in opening a Bitcoin account myself. Talking about Bitcoin MicroStrategy here, this is a Bear Island gap. So this is a candidate for a call spread, you know, just for Friday is all. Stavros asking about Coke. Yeah, you can see it's up here. Gap, you know, how we do gappers is show me where they're gapping, and do I have a compelling pattern? So it's gapping to, it's gapping to a wall of resistance. if you could sell a put spread under last week's low, I would be interested. But it's not a great directional pattern. Well, Rob, of course, I wouldn't post anything if I didn't agree with it. The trade on Bitcoin it's just a far out of the money naked put. So Bitcoin's here at 21,000 and we sold the 13. Well, we didn't do anything yet, but the post I gave, do you think it's going to get down here in 4 days? I don't. Well, that's the bet we're making. And that's why I purposely waited such short term. I would never do it out a month out. All right, Depot, we talked about CDNS. I can't tell where you're gapping. Package, that's a bottoming pattern. Look, it's tested this area 3 times, and I like this. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about reversals and all trends. And look, this is a beautiful reversal. New low plus, red bar ignored, and snap right back. That's a beautiful bottoming pattern, daily and weekly. I can't tell where it's gapping, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. KLU here, it's showing me down 335, but I don't see any prints. So I don't trust my pre-market unless I see prints. Did I lose my pre-market? Yep, sure did. That's what TradeStation does to me. It just takes it off. All right, so spider here, 180 reversal. So that still looks lower. All right, GPK is up now. Well, it's 930. So that's a bullish gap, but a big gap. See, I got filled at 2 cents on my puts. See there? I told you I'd put a GTC in. All right, Kalu, this would be a 30-minute low. It's Stephen, yes. Yes, I've been talking about it a lot. But here, Kalu, 30-minute low.